Hey guys, I'm Kerry. In this video, you'll be learning all you need to know about simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. The structure of a sentence is determined by the number and types of clauses it has. A sentence can be classified depending on its structure as simple, compound, complex, or compound complex. A simple sentence contains one independent clause and no subordinate clauses. For example, Uncle Evan taught me how to play the guitar. A simple sentence may contain a compound subject, a compound verb, and any number of phrases. For example, Renee and Karen bought party supplies at the mall. Renee and Karen is the compound subject in this sentence. Another example. Later, they drove to school and decorated the cafeteria for the annual banquet. Drove and decorated is the compound verb in this sentence. A compound sentence contains two or more independent clauses and no subordinate clauses. A compound sentence may be formed in three ways. Number one, the independent clauses in a compound sentence may be joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunctions are and, but, for, nor, or, so, and yet. For example, April's story sounded incredible, but it was true. This sentence has two clauses joined by the coordinating conjunction but. Another example. Claire hung colorful balls on the Christmas tree and Gwen wrapped the presents. This sentence has two independent clauses joined by the coordinating conjunction and. Number two, the independent clauses in a compound sentence may be joined by a semicolon. For example, Athena Gale was successful at Wimbledon in the 1950s. She won the doubles and singles. Here we have two independent clauses joined by a semicolon. Another example. After an hour, they took a short break. Then they went back to work. This sentence has two independent clauses joined by a semicolon. Number three, the independent clauses in a compound sentence may be joined by a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb or a transitional expression. For example, the defeat of Napoleon was a victory for Britain. However, it brought to end an era of French grandeur. This sentence has two independent clauses joined by a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb. Another example. They agreed not to take any more breaks. Otherwise, they would be late getting home. This sentence has two independent clauses joined by a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb. Here is a list of the common conjunctive adverbs. Here is a list of the common transitional expressions. Do not mistake a simple sentence with a compound subject or compound verb for a compound sentence. For example, simple sentence. The archaeological discovery was made in the fall and was widely acclaimed the following spring. The compound verb in this sentence is was made and was acclaimed. Let's look at the sentence as a compound sentence. The archaeological discovery was made in the fall and it was widely acclaimed the following spring. This sentence is a compound sentence because it has two independent clauses. See the difference? Another example, simple sentence. To pass the time, they talked about school and told stories about their families. The compound verb in this sentence is talked and told. Let's look at an example of a compound sentence. To pass the time, they talked about school and they told stories about their families. This sentence is a compound sentence because it has two independent clauses joined by the conjunction and. See the difference? A complex sentence contains one independent clause and at least one subordinate clause. For example, when they had finished their work, they complimented each other on the results. When they had finished their work is the subordinate clause in this sentence, and they complimented each other on the results is the independent clause. Another example. Otis Evans, who served on the United States Supreme Court for 24 years, retired in 1991. Who served on the United States Supreme Court for 24 years is the subordinate clause in this sentence, and Otis Evans retired in 1991 is the independent clause. Another example. While we were in Hawaii, we went to the beach. While we were in Hawaii is the subordinate clause in this sentence, and we went to the beach is the independent clause. A compound complex sentence contains two or more independent clauses and at least one subordinate clause. Alexia waited for just the right moment to ask Kenrick to the banquet, and he promptly accepted her invitation, adding that he had been planning to ask her. This sentence has two independent clauses and one subordinate clause. Alexia waited for just the right moment to ask Kenrick to the banquet is the first independent clause. He promptly accepted her invitation is the second independent clause. These two clauses are joined by the conjunction and. Alexia waited for just the right moment to ask Kenrick to the banquet, and he promptly accepted her invitation. That part of the sentence is the compound sentence. Adding that he had been planning to ask her is a subordinate clause. Because this sentence now has two independent clauses and one subordinate clause, it is therefore a compound complex sentence. Another example. My mom just spoke to Miss James, who runs the Neighborhood Watch program, and she told her about last night's meeting. Who runs the Neighborhood Watch program is a subordinate clause. My mom just spoke to Miss James is an independent clause. She told her about last night's meeting is the second independent clause. The two clauses are joined by a conjunction, making it a compound sentence. Two independent clauses and one subordinate clause, it is a compound complex sentence. Another example. Chelsea is only 10 years old, but she can already play the piano better than her tutor can. Than her tutor can is a subordinate clause. Chelsea is only 10 years old is an independent clause. She can already play the piano better is another independent clause. Because this sentence has two independent clauses and one subordinate clause, it is considered a compound complex sentence. Thanks for watching, guys. Test your knowledge by taking my types of sentences quiz. Like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay grammarous. Bye, bye, bye.